Lotte takes a new leap beyond its boundaries. Our change will lead to better lives for all. New Lotte, the power of a better world. New today, better tomorrow. Lotte.
Coming up on Arirang News. South Korea's military successfully retrieves a 12-meter-long piece of wreckage from North Korea's failed space rocket launch that plunged into its western waters. This comes after 15 days of the underwater salvage operation, with a further investigation underway. The South Korean government says it'll not remove the import ban on seafood from Fukushima. This, even though the water to be discharged from the crippled nuclear power plant in Fukushima is proven to be safe. Cities around the world, as well as Seoul, are colored purple because it's the 10-year anniversary of BTS's debut. Tonight, we take a look at how global fans visit South Korea to celebrate their journey. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. The South Korean military has recovered a big part of the North Korean rocket debris from the regime's failed space rocket launch about 2 weeks ago from the challenging underwater conditions of the West Sea. Further investigations are underway to gather more information about the North's rocket technology. Our defense correspondent Kim Hyun-sung leads us off from the Navy's Pyeongtaek Fleet headquarters.
This 12-meter-long piece of debris from a North Korean rocket was just freshly fished out of the sea Thursday evening. It's a byproduct of North Korea's failed attempt to launch a spy satellite on May 31st. With the rocket failing to reach space and landing in waters west of the peninsula, the South Korean military rushed to recover any remains. However, as this piece was discovered lodged in the West Sea's coastal mudflats, with a third of it buried in the ocean mud, the recovery crew ran into multiple challenges.
The underwater visibility was extremely poor. My sight was limited to the distance of my palm. I had to rely purely on touch.
The diver further detailed the conditions unique to the West Sea. Water currents move fast, and sediment was stirred up as the divers descended, clouding their visibility. The cylindrical shape of the debris also made the mission extra tough. The Navy struggled to find the right place to secure a clamp and wires to hoist it to the surface. The solution was found in securing a clamp into a crack and drilling a hole into the body of the debris to install a U-shaped loop for lifting it. But as they lifted it onto the ship's deck, the top part separated off. Officials reassured that the damage was not critical enough to derail the mission entirely. After being lifted to the surface, the debris was brought to the South Korean Navy's 2nd Fleet headquarters in Pyeongtaek.
Now, this is what was recovered from the West Sea after being submerged underwater for more than 2 weeks. As you can see, there are quite a lot of scratches on the surface, and military officials say that these are caused during the recovery process. They also suspect this to be the second stage of the rocket, but further examination is required to gather more intelligence about it.
South Korea's Agency for Defense Development is joining the investigation. It will also collaborate with American intelligence services, including the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, in a bid to answer lingering questions. Of particular interest is the anomalous label on the top of the rocket that reads Cheonma, a syllable short of North Korea's proclaimed name for the rocket, Cheonlima. Investigators are also curious about the advanced technology North Korea might have packed into the launch vehicle. Meanwhile, the South Korean Navy continues its search for more debris, signaling that this chapter is far from over. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News, Pyeongtaek.
In related news, South Korea, the U.S. and Japan were quick to condemn North Korea's latest violations of UN Security Council resolutions with a firm joint statement. Lee Seung-jae has details.
On Thursday, North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles into the East Sea, marking its first provocation since its botched military reconnaissance satellite launch late last month. In response, South Korea's National Security Advisor Cho Tae-yong and his U.S. and Japanese counterparts Jake Sullivan and Takeo Kiba issued a joint statement condemning North Korea's missile launches, calling them clear violations of multiple United Nations Security Council resolutions. The statement also stressed that the missile launches demonstrate the threat the DPRK's unlawful weapons of mass destruction and ballistic missile programs pose to the region, international peace and security, and the global non-proliferation regime. The three sides vowed to step up efforts to promote peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. The security advisors also called on all countries to fully implement North Korea-related UNSC resolutions in order to prevent Pyongyang from acquiring the technologies and materials needed to carry out such provocations. The joint statement comes as the top national security advisors of the three countries held talks in Tokyo that largely focused on North Korea. Also in response to the latest missile provocations by North Korea, the U.S. imposed fresh sanctions on 2 North Korean individuals, while also vowing to hold those responsible for missile launches accountable.
I will also note that today the United States imposed sanctions on 2 DPRK individuals for supporting the DPRK's unlawful weapons of mass destruction and missile programs. So we will continue to take action to hold people accountable for such activities.
The 2 North Koreans are known to be based in Beijing. One of those designated for sanctions is Che Chol-min, who, according to the U.S. State Department, has worked with North Korean officials and Chinese nationals to procure materials used in the production of North Korean missiles. His wife, Che Eun-jung, has also been sanctioned, as according to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, she has engaged in commercial activity that generates revenue for the government of North Korea or the Workers' Party of Korea. The sanctions came just hours after Pyongyang resumed its missile provocations after a brief halt in such activity. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And just a day after North Korea's latest missile provocation, a U.S. nuclear-powered guided missile submarine arrived in South Korea for the first time in about 6 years. According to Seoul's defense ministry, the USS Michigan arrived in the southern port city of Busan on this Friday to enhance the visibility of U.S. strategic assets in the region. This, as agreed upon in the Washington Declaration in the face of Pyongyang's hostility. The arrival of the submarine is also intended to demonstrate Seoul and Washington's deterrence capabilities as they seek peace through strength. The submarine is one of the largest ever built for the U.S. Navy and is capable of strike missions. Human trafficking remains a grave issue that South Korea needs to address more actively. Now, this is according to the latest findings by the U.S. State Department. Our Choi Soo-hyung explains.
For the second year in a row, the U.S. State Department has placed South Korea in Tier 2 of its Trafficking in Persons report. According to the report published on Thursday local time, the efforts of the South Korean government have generally increased, but they fall short of the minimum standards in some key areas. The report says some victims were excluded by South Korea due to the lack of clear procedures for verifying the facts of the damages. Despite being victims themselves, they also face the possibility of punishment for engaging in illegal activities. The report also highlights the labor exploitation and human trafficking of migrant workers, as well as the absence of related government policies. However, the document acknowledges Seoul's efforts to prevent human trafficking have improved in general. It said South Korea has established guidelines for identifying victims, consistently collected relevant statistical data, increased penalties for offenders, and installed hotlines for reporting human trafficking cases. Meanwhile, North Korea this year was once again in Tier 3, the lowest tier, as it has been every year since these reports were first released. The report highlighted the North detention camps, forced labor mobilization, and large-scale exploitation of adults and children. The U.S. State Department has been publishing human trafficking reports since 2001. The reports evaluate countries on a scale of Tier 1 to Tier 3 based on human trafficking monitoring and efforts. South Korea was downgraded to Tier 2 last year for the first time and remains in Tier 2 this year, along with countries like Japan, Switzerland, and New Zealand. 30 countries, including the United States, United Kingdom, France and Germany, received Tier 1 status, while 24 countries, including China and Russia, were classified as Tier 3. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
South Korea is not considering lifting its import ban on seafood from Fukushima. That's according to the Vice Minister of the nation's Fisheries Ministry, who has clarified that Japan's wastewater discharge plans and the import ban are two different matters. This as the issue being sensitive among the public. Our political correspondent Han Sung-woo explains.
South Korea's Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries has reassured the public that the nation's current ban on imports of fisheries from Fukushima will not be lifted, regardless of Japan's plans to start discharging radioactive wastewater from its crippled nuclear power plant there into the sea this summer.
In other words, even if the wastewater is scientifically proven to be safe, the import ban cannot be lifted unless it can be verified separately that Fukushima's fisheries are safe to consume.
South Korea has been banning all seafood imports from Fukushima and 7 other prefectures near it since 2013 over radiation concerns. Separating the planned wastewater release and the import ban as two distinct realms, Vice Minister Song Sang-keun added that the government will consider the resumption of importing from the region only when the Korean public can rest assured that they're safe.
The government won't consider lifting the import ban until the Fukushima area is scientifically proven to be safe from radiation and our people feel safe.
This came during day 2 of daily weekday briefings on Japan's wastewater release plan, launched by the Korean government on Thursday to keep the public updated on what's actually happening. A measure that the nation's main opposition Democratic Party of Korea isn't satisfied with.
The current situation of no scientific verification results and only repeated calls on the public to keep calm shows how urgently we need the National Assembly to step in and hold hearings.
In response, the ruling People Power Party has accused the opposition of instigating excessive public anxiety for political gains.
The Korean people are hoarding salt in fear and anxiety, and the fisheries industry has been hit hard. We ask the Democratic Party to join us in calming public anxiety.
Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
On the local economic front, exports continue to shrink, causing an economic slowdown. That's according to the Finance Ministry's monthly report assessing the Korean economy, stating that there is an economic slowdown for the 5th month in a row. Our Moon Hae-ryun has a roundup of the latest economic conditions.
May saw a continued slump in ICT exports, but slowing price hikes have boosted consumer sentiment. The Ministry of Economy and Finance announced through its latest economic green book on Friday that the country experienced an economic slowdown for the 5th month in a row. It cited global economic uncertainties as a result of the prolonged war in Ukraine as affecting the country's exports. These fell by over 15% compared to May last year as a result of the slump in the tech industry. Outbound shipments of semiconductors fell year-on-year by 36% and those for computers by nearly 60%. This resulted in a trade deficit of $2.1 billion in May, marking the 15th month in a row in which the country has logged a trade deficit. However, the trade crisis is showing signs of letting up, with a deficit amount decreasing for 5 straight months.
Data released by the National Tax Service this week for the first 10 days of June shows that exports during that period rose by 1.2% year-on-year, and the daily average slowly increased compared to last month.
The current balance also recorded a $790 million deficit, while the goods account entered into the red for the first time in 7 months in April. The ministry reported that domestic demand was showing signs of a recovery, as were consumer and business sentiment. The consumer and business sentiment indexes both recorded increases in May, prompted by slowing price hikes. Increases in consumer prices continue to decline. These rose by 3.3% on year, whereas April saw a higher rise of 3.7%. Price hikes have been falling for 5 months now, with global oil prices dropping as well as food prices. Even excluding these more volatile categories, prices saw a 3.9% increase over the last 12 months. The government plans to focus its efforts on continuing to reduce consumer prices in the coming months and rejuvenating exports and domestic demand in the second half of the year. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Elsewhere, the European Central Bank took another baby step and raised its key rate by 25 basis points on Thursday. The bank's main base rate now stands at 4%, while its deposit facility interest rate stands at 3.5%, the highest in 22 years. The bank also said inflation looks to linger longer despite signs of slowing, and thus projected another potential hike next month. Thursday's rate raise is the bank's 8th consecutive hike as it seeks to stem inflation, which posted a 6.1% rise on year in May. A new study shows that in 50 years' time, 3 out of 10 people in South Korea are expected to be over the age of 75. This will make South Korea a country with the highest aging population among major OECD nations. The relative poverty rate of the elderly, which represents the proportion of those earning less than the country's median income, meanwhile is improving, as the figure for people over 76 came in at 51.4% as of 2021, dropping about 4 percentage points from 2019. However, a survey shows that 6 out of 10 people who are over the age of 75 consider their income to be insufficient. As of last year, almost 60% of the elderly aged between 65 to 74 responded that they were willing to get a job, up nearly 12 percentage points compared to 10 years ago. Tuesday, June 13th, was the 10-year anniversary of BTS's debut. This whole week was transformed into BTS Week here in Seoul, with passionate fans coming to Korea from overseas to visit the various BTS-related locations and the multitude of events to celebrate the group's 10-year journey. Our culture correspondent NewJeans hit the streets of Seoul to experience this BTS buzz firsthand.
The BTS ARMY has assembled in Seoul. With the boys having marked their 10-year anniversary on June 13th, fans from across the globe have gathered in South Korea's capital to celebrate, such as this area around the building of BTS's management agency, HYBE. The graffiti of the 7 BTS members on the building's outer wall has become a must-visit spot.
I will do this like 1,000 times again. You have this feeling of belonging near them and being in places that are meaningful for ARMY and for BTS.
It's not because they're successful that they're just like sitting on their success and feel like everything is like achieved and everything. They're always trying to become better at what they do, and I find this super admirable.
They teach me how to love myself and love everyone else around me and love this world.
The numbers speak volumes. Data from one online travel agency shows that the number of tourists who booked tickets to Korea between June 12th and 25th jumped 13% from the same period a month ago. Businesses have been quick to respond to this influx of BTS fans. For instance, this hotel in downtown Seoul has a display of the outfits BTS wore during their performance at the 63rd Grammy Awards. There's a restaurant with photographs that document the group's last 10 years, while a hotel package offers an array of BTS merchandise. There are even BTS-themed desserts like these macarons and cakes.
BTS have become global icons, grabbing the attention of audiences worldwide with their fashion, culinary choices, filming locations, and preferred brands. So businesses have recognized the potential in hosting BTS-themed events and offering products that are connected to them in some way.
However, the celebration extends beyond the realms of commerce, as the government has joined the party too. This transformation of Seoul City in the evening is its own tribute. So as the sun sets, key landmarks across Seoul, including here at Sebisum Island, light up in purple, the color representing BTS, to celebrate their 10-year-long journey. Seoul will be lit up in purple, the band's color, and screen BTS-themed digital art until June 25th. These celebrations are bringing together members of the BTS ARMY from all around the world to show their love like never before.
BTS 보라해.
BTS 보라보라요.
보라보라해.
보라보라해.
송유진, 아리랑 뉴스.
In other K-pop news, the song OMG by girl group NewJeans has been ranked 7th by Rolling Stone magazine in its list of the best songs of 2023 so far. Rolling Stone describes OMG as a pristine pop song that has both a 90s and a modern 21st century appeal. The US-based magazine has compiled a list of the 74 best songs that have been released in the first half of the year, and NewJeans is the top-ranking K-pop artist. Other K-pop songs have made it into the top 20, though, such as Like Crazy by Jimin from BTS, Flower by Blackpink member Jisoo, and Cupid by 50/50. Efforts have been made to reduce traffic accidents in school zones here in South Korea using artificial intelligence. In Hwasong City, Gyeonggi-do Province, a new smart safe system has been installed that's lowered jaywalking cases by up to 96%. Yoon-jin has the story.
This is a crosswalk in front of an elementary school in Hwasong City. When the pedestrian light turns red, people cannot walk into the street because of a barrier that closes to stop them. When the light turns green again, the barrier is raised for the people to cross. This is a smart school zone pedestrian safety system. Artificial intelligence has been incorporated to not only operate the barriers according to the traffic lights, but the barrier also provides audio assistance. This system has been installed particularly around school zones to prevent traffic accidents caused by children jaywalking.
The children see the barrier and become more careful when crossing the street. As a parent, it's a relief.
This system has been installed at 36 crosswalks in front of elementary schools around Hwasong City. Data from 7 of these crosswalks show the number of jaywalking cases has dropped from 141 before the installment to 4 afterward, a decrease of 96%.
A 96% decrease in jaywalking means this system is efficient. We will be adding 10 more installments this year.
Hwasong City will use the feedback from the current trial operation of the AI crosswalk barrier system and make any necessary improvements before starting normal operation. It's hoped that the safety system may then be actively introduced to other local governments. 이은진, 아리랑 뉴스.
This weekend is forecast to be the peak of this current hot spell. Most regions will see readings exceeding the seasonal norms by 3 to 5 degrees. For tomorrow, maximum temperatures in Seoul will be hiking up to 31 degrees Celsius. Chances are high that season's first heatwave alerts will be issued on Sunday with highs of 33 degrees. With a rise in temperatures, the sun's UV radiation will get stronger nationwide. The entire nation will see UV ray index in the very high range. Along with that, ozone levels will be in the bad category. Sunscreen will be a must when heading out. Mostly sunny skies are in the forecast. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daejeon will be starting off at 19 degrees. Inland regions will see highs rising significantly. Highs in Seoul will get up to 31 degrees, Gwangju 34, Gyeongju will be topping out at 35 degrees. Conditions will stay hot until early next week. On Wednesday, nationwide rain is in the forecast. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all for this Friday night newscast. Thank you for watching. Hope everyone has a great weekend and a good night.
I'm live. 저를 도와주시는 분들이
저희와 함께 해주시는 세션 분들
아무리 봐도 없지 텐션 같은데 난 이런 거 아무도 안 하는 거고